You're listening to Misadventures with Tea, where things get hot, steamy, and a little bit creamy. I'm your host, Joseph, and we're here to explore all things tea. So sit back, grab your mugs, and get cozy while we spill the tea on tea. Welcome everyone to another episode of Misadventures with Tea. As you have noticed, I already fucked up and it's already like 10 seconds into the podcast, but that's okay. That's the kind of vibe we go for here. Today I am with my friend and actually the creator of my logo and the Microphone Productions logo, Megan. Introduce yourself.
I'm Megan. I'm a friend of Joseph. We worked together previously, and yeah, I'm glad to be on this podcast.
Yes, glad to have you. Very excited. Do you know roughly the premise of how we're going to do this? It's okay if you don't. I will literally break it down.
I did listen to a few, yes, but I would like a little bit of instruction.
Yeah, no worries. So this is how we're going to go about it. We're going to start with a little tea tasting. Before we get into that, actually, are you a tea drinker?
I do drink it on occasion. I'm more of a coffee person. Okay. I like my caffeine, but I will drink tea, yes, especially when I'm not feeling well or I want something that isn't so heavy on the caffeine. Yeah. Like before bed, I actually have lemon balm because it helps me sleep. Yeah.
Fair enough. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So, seeing that you are more of a coffee drinker but drink tea occasionally, what would you say is like your go-to tea?
Oh, that's hard. Again, like lemon balm, because I have anxiety and I'm an anxious person. I find it helps relax me. Okay. So I kind of use it as like almost a natural medication to be like, I just want to chill out. I do love matcha, and I do love green tea in general. Perfect. And chamomile is great too when you're sick.
I can't do chamomile, but I agree. It is great.
Oh, yes.
That's good. Well, hopefully today you'll like the matcha I've chosen for you. So going back to what I was mentioning before about the breakdown, we're going to start off with a little tea tasting. I'll give you a little bit of a brief history on the matcha. That's today's choice. And then from there, a little history. And then after that, I'll give you a little momentum to kind of tell us a little bit more about yourself, the kinds of things you do, the projects. And I mean, you can even like talk about any side projects you're working on.
Awesome.
So to start off, this is a matcha. It is called, actually, I don't want to spoil it just yet. Why don't we start with a little sniff test or smelling test? Okay. So just grab a cup, smell, and tell me what you think or smell.
It smells really earthy.
Okay.
Very, I want to say organic, like it like I know organic's like a type of food or whatever, but it feels like very grassy almost, like that's the kind of smell I'm smelling.
Okay. Fair enough. I wonder you know what, if that's the case, why don't we go right into the tasting?
All right.
It might be a little hot. Does it taste like anything? I hope I mixed it right.
It's very good.
Okay.
It's actually, it's very fresh almost. Like it's just like almost cleans your palate. Like it's great and it's so smooth.
Do you have do you sense or taste any notes of anything?
I definitely taste the matcha, but it's not too strong. It's like a perfect amount of matcha. I don't know how to describe it. Again, like kind of like how it smells, you know, It feels very earthy when you taste it, but it's really delicious. It's almost a little bit sweet. It's not sweet necessarily. Has a little hint.
All right. Yeah. That's kind of what I was kind of hinting at.
Yeah.
Basically, the flavor I got was maple matcha.
That is... Yeah, I was going to say because it's sweeter than the matchas I've tasted before. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. I do have another recommendation for matcha. A little teaser was that the previous episode I also covered matcha. So this is going to be a two-parter. Okay. And in the previous one, we covered... Oh my God, what was it called? Marshmallow matcha, something like that.
Okay.
I don't remember. Oh my God. Okay, that's fine. But basically, it was with Iman.
Okay.
And I feel like that one you might like as well. It had a nice little sweetness to it, and maybe like a little bit, shouldn't I say pop? Like smokiness.
Nice.
So it was a nice little.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me get the packaging. I realize I left it over here.
Okay.
But the packaging, I want to see if you can smell anything further from it.
Okay.
Feel free to just open it. And
okay. No problem.
Yeah. Should definitely get a stand for this. Sorry. No, it's all good.
Okay. I definitely smell the maple in this. Like, it does smell kind of sweet, almost like a dessert. But I can't, it reminds me of something. I can't exactly pick out what it is, but it smells very sweet.
It kind of, to me, it reminded me of like maple cookies.
Yes. Yes. I haven't had those in a while. But
I've always seen them in the grocery aisles, and I just walk away. I'm just like, no, not today, Satan. But yeah, so that was today's tea. It's maple matcha. I was trying to find something that I feel like you would like, but I also didn't want to make it overly overwhelming.
Right.
So I was like, let's keep it a little simple. Let's also keep it in fall theme because, you know, we're basically releasing this on Halloween Day. So, you know, spooky season.
For sure. For sure.
And I feel like that would be the best way of like kind of tying in with the season.
Yeah.
Okay. So let us go straight into the brief history of matcha part 2.
Okay.
So in this episode, we're going to cover a little bit more of like, did you know that matcha can be categorized in 3 categories?
No, I didn't know that.
So there is ceremonial matcha, culinary matcha, and then the ingredient grade matcha.
Okay, I knew of 2 of them, and I actually found that out recently. I'm an avid social media person, so I'm always watching different videos, but I saw a video about matcha, and basically they were saying if you go to a coffee shop or a tea shop and you get a matcha latte or whatever you get, you can tell by how green it is if it's the proper drink matcha that they're using. So there's a difference between baking grade, and I think ceremonial is the one.
It's the top tier.
It's the top tier one that you get, yeah.
The bright green.
Yes.
That's usually affiliated with a ceremonial grade. So I'm glad you know. I'm glad you know. Some people might not know. They might just think that it's just the same matcha, which I can totally understand because, you know.
Right.
You're not the one preparing it half the time, so it's like.
For sure.
But.
I did actually notice too previously, because I get matcha at a lot of different places. I try it everywhere, and there has for sure been a difference in like how good a matcha is. I've been to places where I'm like, wow, this is really good, and then others where it's underwhelming.
I totally get that. So like, who knows? Maybe they're not using the right kind of matcha. But anyway, so just to kind of give you a little bit more in depth about this, I have it right here. So ceremonial grade matcha comes from the Ichiban. Oh my god, I always do this. Ichibancha, which is like the first harvest leaves. So like these are like when the plant is growing. This is the first harvest of leaves that they use, and this is normally like the best leaves because they are like the brightest of green. They have a smoother flavor that is suitable for traditional preparations, like tea preparations, and tends to be the most expensive, which if you ever had to buy matcha, you would notice that if you get the good grade, it's pretty expensive. It's almost $30 depending. Like,
it is.
Whereas if you go for like the cheaper rounds ingredient, these are usually known for being a little bit more bitter. They are more darker in color, and best used for like cookies, cooking, baking, and then again just slipped up and said cookies, which is not a lie. And then the one that most people might not know about is the culinary one, which comes from like the second harvest of tea leaves, or the bancha, which still has a beautiful color and rich, distinctive, robust flavor for blended preparations like lattes and smoothies. So I guess that's the one that some people will use.
Yes.
And that's probably like what you've been tasting, where you'll find that some that are really good, it's probably because they're using ceremonial, and then
yes.
like the other ones are using the culinary.
Right,
so
right.
Just a step down, but that's okay. Still good. So that is the 3 types of flavors or grades of matcha that we have. The next part that I wanted to kind of discuss about in this time was, if you heard, or actually haven't heard, I'm still in the process of recording, but did you know that matcha was actually not founded, but like basically came from China before it went to Japan?
I did know that, actually. That's another fun fact that I knew. And it's funny because now Japan is the primary country that is associated with matcha. Wherever you go, you go to a restaurant or you go to one of those cafes and they have matcha, it's always very much Japanese oriented, whereas most people don't know that it came from China.
Exactly. And like I it's funny because I never put that together, but I did know that green tea came from China. So I'm like, it makes sense as to it being from there. But again, doing this podcast, I'm learning every day. And it was definitely an interesting fun fact. And it does make sense because it was first brought up in China in the form of bricks.
Yes.
And that was then transported over to Japan, where it became popularized and therefore more affiliated with Japanese culture as opposed to Chinese culture.
Amazing.
But I thought that was a little fun fact. And the reason why I brought that up was because a lot of times when people drink matcha, it's usually affiliated with a tea ceremony.
Right.
So I don't know, have you ever witnessed an actual tea ceremony done or a live demonstration of it?
I've heard of it. I might have seen it. I've never participated in one.
Neither have I. I think no. Well, actually, it depends. I really can't say because I don't think this particular tea ceremony for matchas is the same as like other tea ceremonies.
Right.
So I've partook in some tea ceremony, but probably not the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So with regards to this, a matcha tea ceremony, I thought it was very interesting. I think I've seen it like online, but again, never experienced it live. And so I'm going to just briefly talk about what that is. So another form of, or another way that this is called, it's called chado or chanoyu.
Okay.
Which is basically a Japanese translation to the way of tea.
Okay.
Which I thought was cool. And I was like, okay, I see that. Basically, the ceremony centers on the activity of the host and guests spending a mutually heartwarming time together over a bowl of matcha tea, where the host aims to serve the guests an unforgettably satisfying bowl of tea, and the guest responds with thankfulness, both of them realizing that the time shared can never be repeated, that it is a once-in-a-lifetime occasion. Very wholesome.
It is, yeah.
So I kind of feel like that's an experience that most people tend to have in any kind of tea ceremony. I find it's always kind of like just bonding over these teas, and like just even sometimes like when I partook in like these other ones, like live demonstrations, it was just interesting watching how like they would pour tea, like even prepare it and then just serve it to whoever was there. If it was just you, then it's just you.
Right.
If there was like you and 2 other people, like they could be total random strangers you've never met, but you'll like all just kind of sit around this like little presentation table and you all just enjoy tea. So
it's amazing.
I definitely think that was pretty cool. Another part to it that I found interesting was there's the lore that back in the 16th century there was a tea maker by the name of, oh my god, what's his name? Senrikyu, that basically perfected how to do this tea ceremony and came up with 7 rules.
Okay.
Have you heard of this guy, of this name before?
I don't think so, no.
I don't think so either. He basically he was asked by someone who came, I guess, to witness this tea ceremony, was asked, how do you discover, or like, can you describe what the way is, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, it's basically observing these 7 rules. First rule, making a satisfying bowl of tea. Second is laying the charcoal so that the water boils efficiently. Third rule is providing a sense of coolness in the summer and warmth in the winter. Fourth rule is arranging the flowers as though they were in the field. 5 is be ready ahead of time. 6 is being prepared in case it should rain. And 7, acting with utmost consideration towards your guest.
Oh, that's interesting.
And you know what's also interesting is that these rules are not like, they're kind of nonsensical in a way.
Right.
I find.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I think the whole focus is just kind of like being aware of your situation and like surrounding, and just it focuses at saying that like every component matters in this.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of cool.
Wow, there's so much around matcha.
I know. So much around matcha, so little time. But the last thing I want to talk about, and I'm sure you feel free to jump in because I mean, I wouldn't call myself an expert, and I would just share what I know and what I found through my research into these topics.
Right.
But if you have any little fun facts or any little information that I might have missed and you would like to add, feel free to jump in.
Okay.
Yeah, do you have anything right now?
Well, I'm going to preface this by saying I am no way a nutritionist or a health expert. I wouldn't classify myself as a scientist in that realm whatsoever, so take this with a grain of salt. But I did hear that if you drink 2 to 3 cups of green tea a day, like you don't want to ever have too much of anything, right? But I'd say like 1 or 2 cups even is good. It significantly improves your immune system. So during cold and flu season, it's a great way to combat these illnesses. Not only that, but because it's full of antioxidants, it can prevent cancers potentially and other diseases. So you can't really go wrong with it. It's great to have in your diet.
You heard it here, folks. Megan's, if you're looking for natural remedies, try it out. And it's actually funny that you bring this fun fact because the next thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was health benefits of matcha.
Yes.
So there you go. And you actually did touch up on a few points that I was going to talk. So basically, matcha, I might have discussed it in the previous episode, and we'll see. Basically, matcha has caffeine.
Yes.
But it also has, I think it's not an amino acid. Anyways, it has L-theanine.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes,
I would need to see the word.
You know what? Why don't I just zoom in and you tell me if you can read what it is. It's L-theanine.
Theanine, I think. Yeah.
It's funny. This morning I had read it and it sounded so good in my head, and then like here I am, kind of like struggling with the pronunciation. That's
okay.
Don't you just love that?
Yes.
So basically, with the combination of the caffeine and the L-theanine, you've kind of noticed, as if you are a regular matcha drinker, that matcha tends to help kind of stabilize you. It brings you into like a more calm mood. Sometimes it gives you like more focus, which maybe it's the placebo of me talking, or maybe it's the actual thing, but I found that when I was drinking a matcha tea latte and I was at work, I found I could focus a little bit more.
Yes, I actually so despite being an avid caffeine drinker, I find I'm sensitive to espressos sometimes. It depends how tired I am. If I'm really tired, I could drink any amount and it doesn't matter. But if I over consume coffee, I'll feel really like kind of jittery and anxious. Like today I had 2 cups, probably 2 espressos. And like after that I was good. Like I could have even skipped out on the second one. But I find with matcha, I actually have it has little effect on me. Like I know it has caffeine in it, but I find it doesn't have the same effects that a coffee would, where it makes you really jittery and anxious and alert. I do find it calms you down.
And it's funny because it does say here that like drinking matcha is basically like having a coffee without giving you the side effects of like the caffeine jitters or like making you anxious. They also were saying, again, coming back to, boosting your sense of concentration, a sense of calmness. compared it similar to how one would feel after like a yoga session or even meditating.
Right.
Which I can see that, because I remember when I used to meditate, God knows I haven't done that in a while.
Yeah.
It made me feel good. And
yeah.
And I felt like that plus the matcha, oof, I was like in cloud 9.
Yeah.
So you mentioned it fortifies your immune system, which was another thing I found. So like it is definitely good in that case. It helps provide, it helps burn calories and improve like heart health, which again, I agree with. And also like putting aside that it's matcha, just the fact that it's tea and tea is usually like water, it does tend to be affiliated with like helping you with, your heart and overall,
for sure,
the cardiovascular system. So I can see where the connection is there. And then the last thing, which you touched upon, was antioxidants. Antioxidants are good. Matcha is a great way to make sure that you're getting a good dose of it into your system. What is full of antioxidants? I think blueberries as well.
Blueberries, my magical food now. And again, if you're on medications that you're not allowed to eat this, don't do it. But grapefruits are insanely amazing for you. I used to eat one every single day, and I swear I never got sick for like 3 years.
I believe it.
You know what? I'm a believer in natural medicines. Of course, get your vaccines, people. But in terms of just everyday health, there are ways to take care of your body naturally. You don't need medications for that. And just eating the right foods and integrating like these teas, you could see an improvement in your health.
1,000%.
And again, to touch on the fitness aspect or the weight loss aspect of matcha. So with anything, you can't just expect a quick fix, like, if I drink matcha or if I have these lemons, like it's going to do something. No, of course you have to be in a calorie deficit. Of course you have to be working out. But if you integrate that into both of those regimes, you will for sure notice a difference. Like if you're, it overall improves your health in general. So it's a very good idea if you're looking to stay fit, to stay healthy.
No, 1,000%. And I agree. You heard it here, folks. Here with the fitness goals, here with the fitness tips, we got you covered. Okay. So I think that's all I had in terms of like my matcha, knowledge and whatnot. If you're looking to hear more about matcha, you'll hear more in the previous episode. And, maybe I'll cover matcha again in a later episode. Who knows? We'll come back to it. But now is my favorite segment where I ask my guests to tell me about themselves, and the way I want to segue this into is basically touching on the fact that you are a graphic designer, because you've helped to create the logo for my podcast. Yeah. So please tell us a little bit more.
So, well, first and foremost, I've always been an artist. Growing up, I naturally just saw images in my head, so I was able to just create things. And then I kind of utilized that into a career, which is graphic design, because you can kind of go into many avenues with that field. You can work in many different industries. Like right now, for example, I'm working in the gaming industry, which is definitely up my alley for sure as a gamer.
We're going to touch more on that soon.
And yeah, I love what I do. I do many different types of design. Like I do digital design, which includes, illustration, logo design, branding, digital ads, even motion design. I'm kind of getting more into that animation, more 3D stuff. Websites I have done before, although not my specialty. And I do a lot of other things too on the side. I'm learning to produce electronic music, which is interesting. And I'm kind of using my graphic design knowledge to create visuals and things like that. So it's an interesting ride for sure.
Well, just for anyone, since I know you did me this favor, but I mean, are you taking on any like new clients? Like if any of my listeners are out there looking for someone to do graphic design? Yes,
I actually just got a few recently that are very interested, and we started on some projects. So
you heard it here. So like if you need a graphic designer, please reach out to Megan or let me know. I'll probably add your socials if you like.
For sure.
I'll add it into the episode.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, so you touched a bit about gaming. So why don't we go to that? Because I remember when we first met, that was definitely something where I was like, oh, a gamer. I'm like a fellow gamer. I'm like, here I am thinking I'm the only one because everyone I meet does not play games.
Right.
So I was very happy when I found out you play games. So why don't you tell me a bit about what kind of genre of games you like, and then maybe your favorite game?
Oh, this is a tough one because I am pretty varied with what I play. I'm very diverse. Recently, because it's Halloween, I've been streaming horror games for fun on Twitch. And I'm not like, I definitely am not going for the whole streamer thing, but I just like doing it for fun. And yeah, horror, I'm a big sci-fi fan in general, so both games and movies. Love Cyberpunk. I know it kind of flopped when it came out, but they really updated it, and I recommend it. It's a really good game.
Okay, good, because I do remember that. I remember seeing Cyberpunk and like not many good reviews, and I was just like, ooh.
Yeah, the problem with that is they released it way too early. They rushed it out before it was really done, and that was also a problem with one of my other games that I recommend, which is No Man's Sky.
I heard that one.
It's very open world. You travel to different planets. You survive in different environments. You build bases. It's really interesting. But yes, when it first came out, they rushed it out, they hyped it up, and then it was disappointing. But now it's actually a really good game. It's multiplayer. You can play with friends online. You can build bases, which you weren't able to do when the game first came out. Like, there's so many capabilities with that game that are awesome.
I love when games redeem themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say my favorite genre is mostly like, I definitely am varied, but I think I've stumbled more towards RPG games or even like JRPG games.
Yes.
Things like Final Fantasy, Assassin's Creed.
Those are good ones. Yeah.
Actually, Assassin's Creed multiplayer was probably like by far my favorite one.
Yeah.
Because I used to like hang out with friends and we would always game online. You know how people would like create little sessions to play COD?
Yes.
For me, it was Assassin's Creed.
That's amazing. Yeah, one of my community games, I'll call them collaborative games, I play a lot with people is Fortnite. It's not necessarily a game I play by myself, but it's a great way to like meet people or even just have a community of friends. It's really fun to play in groups.
I've seen the gameplays of people playing in groups, and it just seems more fun. And honestly, I think playing within groups is even better. It just makes the experience a whole lot better. And I feel like sometimes people who don't play games don't get that. But whatever, we're not going to hate on them right now.
For sure.
But another game, actually, because you might have played, or maybe you don't like it, or you do, whatever. But another game that just came to mind was Among Us. Remember when that was an era?
Oh, yes. That was actually a very fun game. I haven't played it that much. I played it when it first came out. But that was great to play with people. That's another great one to play.
I think the most I ever got was like 3 people. So like it was fun playing like the 3 of us against like whoever. But it sucks that like it was kind of like during the COVID. Well, I don't want to say COVID era, but it was like more towards the start of COVID when it was like a very big thing.
Yes.
And I wanted to really play with like a full party of people, but I could never find anyone who wanted to play. I
know, that's hard.
And then more recently, they've been adding like new customizations, like new game modes or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was just so fun. Oh.
I know. That's the one thing. Obviously COVID was horrible and people were isolated and like I definitely had a hard time with certain aspects of COVID, but the one thing I did like about it was you could just kind of sit at home and play video games and you didn't have this gnawing feeling that you needed to always be doing something. Like it was like a very relaxing time. Yeah. You know?
I would say it was a good time to like really reflect and just kind of do your thing.
I know. Yeah.
So I agree. I feel like through all the hardships, COVID did bring some good. So.
Yes. Of course, it depends on your situation, your living situation as well, but yeah.
Definitely, I'm not trying to brag or make it seem like, oh, everybody had a great time, because, it was not the case, but just, it's always good to kind of think a little positive in all of the negatives.
For sure.
So, anything else you would like the audience to know, or?
To know?
Or anything you want to share?
Well... What can I talk about? Well, games. Going back to games, I started playing this new game.
Okay.
I love the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. When that first came out, I was one of those people watching it. Like I just was really intrigued by how simple the gameplay was, but it was so creepy, and it was definitely a game that enticed you, you know, to play more. And recently there was a game released called Five Nights at Freddy's Into the Pit, which is almost like a 16-bit style flat platform game where you kind of go through this world where you go back in time to when the diner was open, and it's so creepy for what it is. Like, you know, you wouldn't think that style of game is creepy because it's like, it reminds you of very old school games, you know, you're going through a map, but it's really creepy and it's really good story building. I recommend it.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I like when games kind of like they've turned something that's not creepy.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much.
It is so great. And I know that franchise is mostly popular, I think, with teenagers. I could be wrong, but they market it to kids a lot.
I was going to say, because I'm like, I swear I've walked down the street and I'll see like some little kid, 7-year-old, 5-year-old with like a Five Nights at Freddy like doll, and I'm like,
it's fascinating because it's really not a kid's game.
No.
If you think about it, it's a horror game, and like the victims in the game are children, so it's ironic.
It's so ironic.
Yeah. But yeah, I recommend it.
No, I agree. Five Nights at Freddy was definitely one of those games that was like top tier. And it's funny because, again, similar to like other games like Among Us, Fortnite, they were somewhat like, they were popular amongst the OG, like the people who found them at the very beginning. Right. But then like it just never took off, and then when it did, like it just became really popular, and I love that. I love when games have those moments when it's just like, oh, you know, it's sad that they're not getting the traction, and then just one day, bam.
Yep.
The next thing.
Yeah. I don't know how big the gaming community is in Vancouver. Like you were saying earlier, I haven't really met people who play games much when I moved here.
Maybe they're like us, and you know, they just dwell in the online surface. So like, you gotta find them online.
We're all on Reddit.
Just be like, guys, find me, please.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, you know, probably should start a thread. Be like, looking for gamer friends, please, like, hit me up.
I will say though, like when I first moved here and was working in another company that does games, I did meet some people that gamed. I guess if you're in that industry, you probably will meet like some people that game. But surprisingly, not everybody who works in that industry likes to game, which is interesting.
That is interesting. Normally, well, yeah, no, I'd still find it's interesting. I mean, like if you go into the gaming industry, or the game developing industry, like I still feel like you would have an interest in wanting to play them, because I mean, like at the end of the day, you're producing something that you're going to have to like market, right? So
I think it for sure helps you. Like in my job now, because I play games, I kind of like see what's around me, see what competitors are doing, see what other games are doing, right? So then you can kind of utilize that in your own work. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that I think is everything that I have. I mean, any final thoughts?
No, this matcha is really delicious.
I'm glad you liked it. Like I said, I wanted to keep things a little simple, but I wasn't too sure. You can tell me now. Are you the adventurous type with like teas? Oh
yeah, I would try anything really. Yeah.
Good to know. Well, I mean, if you ever want to come back, I have no problem having you back.
Yeah, I'm pretty, like, because I'm more of a coffee drinker, I haven't had the opportunity to try a bunch of different teas. Actually, one tea, now that I'm thinking, that the first time that I tried moving to Vancouver, my friend got me this tea for my birthday. It was like a rice tea, which is really interesting flavor, and it's actually really good.
Yeah. Like, I think it's like if I mind you, it might be a little bit different, but like when I think of a rice tea, it usually has like a little bit of like a toasted kind of taste to it.
Yeah, it was interesting. I've never tried it before, and it was really good.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I'm glad to know that you're very adventurous. That gives me lots to work with.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so much, Megan, for coming. By all means, yeah, like I'd love to have you back on another episode. And yeah, it was definitely fun. Glad you enjoyed the matcha, and it was a great time having you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries.